Good morning, honorable members and colleagues.
Morning, Chairperson. How are you?
Good. Just feeling fluish.
I can see the way you dressed. But Pretoria is very cold. I'm in Pretoria.
I did not sleep at all last night. I was cold. Okay. And Tsitsikama is not that kind, but today at least. Chilaga.
Yes, Chair.
Did you get all members? Did they join, all of them? Because I only see Honorable...
Honorable Peach is not joined. Honorable Manaka. Honorable Kumalo. Those three. Mr. Poston tendered an apology.
Okay. Good morning, DM. I see that she has joined. DM Swartz.
Good morning, Chairperson.
Okay. I see Honorable De Blog. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair.
Honorable Mukwena. Good morning.
Morning, Chair.
Honorable Mkiza. Good morning.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson.
Honorable Makasi. Good morning. Honorable Makasi. Good morning. Maybe she's still trying to settle. Who else did? Honorable Temba, are you in the meeting?
Morning, Chair.
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning, Honorable
Good
Temba.
morning, Chilega. Good morning, Sansa.
Present.
Present.
Good morning, everyone.
Present. Okay. Honorable members, I think we need to start with our meeting. I'm going to
Recording in progress.
I'm going to switch off my video for purposes of bandwidth. You have seen me, all of you, even those who does not know me, definitely they have seen me now. Feeling cold, I'm wearing warm today. Honorable members, as we got, am I audible, Chi? Am I audible? Am I clear?
You are
Yes,
audible.
Chair, you are.
You are
Oh,
perfect.
Can hear you.
Oh, thank you, Honorable Managa. Honorable members, as we gather today, it is important to acknowledge the current climatic realities facing our nation. The Western and Eastern Cape provinces are currently experiencing their rainy season, with additional precipitation anticipated on the country. Our interior provinces are in their crucial fire break season, which began in May and extends through August. While we expect climate-driven disasters, communities must become proactive in reducing risks, particularly by utilizing this fire breaks season to reduce fuel loads. In 2024, fire season served as a stark reminder of our vulnerabilities. It was a record-breaking year, seeing 2,750 firefighting teams dispatched, thousands of livestock lost, nearly 4 million hectares burnt, and a tragic of 34 human lives lost, including dedicated firefighters. Many of these devastating losses could have been significantly minimized with proper fire break preparation. While the South African Weather Services provides critical climate and weather forecast, it's clear that as citizens, we must also play our part in mitigating the impacts of climate change. We transition to a critical oversight function, receiving the third and fourth quarter performance reports from the department and its entities. Today, we'll hear from South African Weather Services and South African National Parks on their financial and non-financial performance during second half of the 24-25 financial year. These reviews are essential for the committee to assess preliminary performance against annual targets, allocated resource, and understand the progress made on implementing audit action plans. Both expenditure and revenue are important for understanding the cost effectiveness and efficiency of programs. Equally important, honorable members, is the non-financial information, which enables us to assess actual progress towards desired outcomes and impacts within each entity's sector. While the 80% achievement target against set goals appears to have been missed by both SANParks and SOurce, their achievement of several high-impact targets is commendable. South African Weather Services was on track for a sterling performance until a cyber attack unfortunately derailed their operations. SANParks has demonstrated excellent progress in addressing nearly all previous audit findings, maintaining a strong financial health and performing well against planned targets. We hope that when the financial audits are concluded, the reported positive performance will be sustained. With those opening remarks, honorable members and colleagues, I welcome all of you in today's briefing. Can you flight our agenda? Is there any apologies?
Yes, Chair. I received apologies from the Minister, the DG, and Honorable person. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Can you go through the list of our guests or people who are attending from the department here?
Okay, Chair.
Our delegation.
Our delegation for today, we have Chair. The delegation is led by the Deputy Ministers, Honorable Singh and Honorable Swartz. And then from the department, we have the Miss Flora Mokhohloa, the Deputy Director General for Biodiversity and Conservation.
Yes, you are muted. Kilaga, is it me who have lost honorable members, or we've all lost her?
Me as well, Chair. She's not audible.
We lost her, Chair, not you.
Oh, okay. Okay, I
I've
think
got cut off, Chair.
yes. Can you start quickly, Chair?
Oh, okay, I was at Mr. Nganunu, PLO, the Deputy Director. The PLO Office of the Deputy Minister, and then Mr. Harish in the law, also Office of the Deputy Minister Swartz, Ms. Puguhle Tengiswayo, Parliamentary Support, Office of the Director General. And then from the entities chair, we've got the board chairperson, Ms. Pemiako from SANParks. And then the CEO of SANParks, Happy Silo. And then we have Acting Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Ketiwe Silubane, Managing Executive for Conservation and Service Division. We've got Mr. Howard Hendricks. Managing Executive, Kruger National Park, it's Mr. Oscar Mtimkulu. General Manager Communications, it's Mr. Ray Takuli. Chief Operations Officer, Miss Liz McCord. Senior Manager, Office of the CEO, it's Miss Ndibongo. And then from our second entity source chair, we have the board chairperson, Miss Sandika Daya. And the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Isha Mabada, Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Norman Zizi, Executive Corporate Services, it's Miss Petro Decker, Executive Weather and Climate Services, we have Dr. Jonas Pepia, Specialist for Strategy Planning and Reporting, we have Mr. Dituso Mhapi. So that is our delegation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Can we then move for adoption of the agenda, honorable members? Honorable members. Kumalo.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Greetings to your good self and members of the committee and all the deputy ministers and all the entities representatives that are in this platform. Chair, I move for the adoption of this agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kumalo. Honorable Beach.
Good morning, Chair, colleagues, deputy ministers. I second the adoption of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Beach. We are going to move to our item 2 of the agenda.
Yes,
Can you mute, please? Honorable Kumalo, can you mute? And lower your hand as a brief, Mama. Okay. We are going to move to our item number 2. I'm going to request both ministers that are going to do an overview. I'm going to start with Honorable Swartz, followed by Honorable Singh. Honorable Swartz.
Good morning, Honorable Chair. Good morning to Deputy Minister Singh. Good morning to all our honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, the board chairpersons present, the CEOs from the entities, and all the officials of both Parliament and the entities themselves. Honorable Chairperson, today we are going to get presentations on the fourth quarter performance from the entities. And we have been here not long ago where we were getting presentations on their third quarter performances. Now, I don't want to go into detail, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, but because we allow the board chairpersons to give us overviews as well, I am not going to have a lot to say, Chairperson. Not that I don't have, I do have, but I think that I'm just going to allow you, through you, Chairperson, to move on to the next item where we get Deputy Minister Singh to say a few words. But for me, is that I would allow the board chairpersons so that we all listen to them, because I think that when you look at what we are going to be presented with today and coming from the third quarter, that is where our business of the day is. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members.
Thank you, Honorable DM Swartz. Honorable DM Singh.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I greet yourself, committee members, DM Swartz, and the board chairpersons and our officials. I am also going to be very brief. I think the information you're going to receive is historical, but it also provides a trend on spending trends, and we'll leave it to the board chairpersons and the officials. But let me also, on behalf of the department and the minister and DM Swartz, thank all members who participated in our budget debate the other day. Thank you very much for all the comments And I'm quite sure that if there's anything that we hadn't answered, we will provide written answers to you. And if there's any thing that any member wants at any time, then through your secretary of the committee, please forward them to our officers and we will oblige with the responses. But thank you very much, Chair, for your leadership and to all the members who participated. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable TM Singh. We are now going to move to the first presentation, honorable members and colleagues. I am going to request the chairperson of South African Weather Services, Ms. Sandika Daya. Over to you.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson of the Committee, Ms. Hanso, Honorable members of the Committee, Honorable Minister in absentia, and the Deputy Ministers present, the Chairperson of SANParks, Chief Executive Officers and Executives present, ladies and gentlemen, warm greetings to you all. I am grateful for this opportunity to present the South African Weather Services performance reports for quarter 3 and quarter 4 of the 2024-25 financial year. Honorable members will recall that when the SAWS team appeared before this committee on 25 March 2025, I indicated that we were a new board whose term of office commenced at the beginning of January 2025. This means that 2 different boards were in office during the reporting periods that the committee will be briefed on this morning. The previous board concluded its mandate at the end of December 2024, while the current board kick-started its tenure at the dawn of 2025. The current board picked up where the previous left off with enthusiasm to discharge its duties. What's more, the presence of a few members of the old board, such as myself, on the current board ensured continuity, the retention of institutional memory, and a smooth transition from the past. Sorry, just moving around here quickly.
You can, Ms. Daya, Ms. Daya, you can switch off your video, ma'am. You can switch off your video. Thank you.
All right. So yes, the retention of institutional memory and a smooth transition from the past to the present was available. So turning to the matter at hand, I don't want to be too detailed so as not to preempt the SAWS CEO's report. He will take the committee through the slides shortly. However, I would like to use this opportunity to highlight the glaring contrast between quarter 3 and 4 performance results. As honorable members will see, in quarter 3, the entity achieved 90.91% of its performance targets. That was an impressive 9.09% spike from the 81.82% recorded in quarter 2, at which point the entity had dipped slightly from the 83.33% attained in quarter 1. Sadly, in quarter 4, the entity's performance took a nosedive, plummeting from the year's high of 90.91% to a low of 36.36%. That was the poorest performance that SAWS has recorded in a very long time. Needless to say, the January 2025 cyber attack had everything to do with this uncharacteristically poor performance. When we, as the current board, took the baton from our predecessor, it would have been our desire to keep the momentum and either maintain or improve on the notable Q3 performance results. But sadly, this was not meant to be. The cyber attack marked a disappointing regression in the SAWS performance, to which the CEO will provide more details in this regard. For the current board, particularly the new members, the cyber attack was truly a baptism of fire. Important lessons have, however, been drawn from that experience. Working together with the SAWS management, we undertake to do all in our power to ensure that the entity is protected from such attacks, as they have the potential to collapse an all-important services that the SAWS renders to the people of South Africa. Already great progress is being made in implementing measures that will see to it that the entity does not find itself in the same predicament again. On behalf of the board, I would like to thank the committee for its continued support of this board and the SAWS management and staff alike. Without your continuous support, it would be extremely difficult to deliver on the source mandate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dyer. Over to you, Mr. Abada, CEO. Take us through to your, yes.
Good morning, Chair, and a very good morning to yourself, Honourable Chair, the Honourable members of the Portfolio Committee, Minister in absentia. Good morning to Honourable Deputy Minister Swartz and Deputy Minister Singh, our board chairpersons, my fellow CEO and all my colleagues, both from the department and the entities. Chair, I'm not sure if you can see my face. If you don't mind, I'm going to switch the video off as we get into the slides. And also, with your permission, Chair, if we can take the third quarter performance and fourth quarter performance in terms of the narrative first, and then I can hand over to the CFO to take us through the financials for both quarters. I'd appreciate that. And then also, Chair, with your permission, the normal situation is that we have 55 slides, which is a considerable number of slides. And the practice has been that we only focus on the areas of non-achievement. So once again, Chair, with your permission, I'll only focus on those slides. I see it's not in slide view yet. So I'll just wait for our colleagues to get the slides into the correct viewing mode.
Okay. Permission granted, Mr. Abada.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay. Can the person who's dealing with the slides please try to be fast?
Chair, with your permission, if the honourable members have the slide presentation, I can start talking to the slides already, if that's okay
Yes.
with you.
Yes, we do. We do have the presentation. You can start. They are busy correcting this one. Yeah, you can
Okay.
start. Mr.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'll start quite slowly with slide 4. Slide 4 essentially, Chair, talks to a summary of our quarter 1 to 3 performance. You'll see in quarter 1 we had an 83.3% performance rate there. Quarter 2 it was 81.82, and as our Chair mentioned, quarter 3 was quite good in terms of our performance. It went up considerably, and it was sitting at 90.91%. In terms of what happened during the 3 quarters, we had the theft and vandalism in quarter 1, and then also our unregulated commercial revenue, which was below target. And then quarter 2, that theft and vandalism of the air quality stations continued, and we also did not meet the commercial revenue target. But in quarter 3, there was only one target that we had not met. We missed the terminal aerodrome forecast target, or the TAF as they call it, by 1%. I'll move on, Chair, to slide 5. This was just a summary of the third quarter performance report as well. On this slide, you can see that our achievement in the third quarter was 90.91%, and non-achievement was 9%. So as the Chair had pointed out, there was a considerable improvement in terms of that performance. And then, Chair, I'd like to go now to slide 8. In terms of our performance there, the target that we had not managed to achieve was the target related to the percentage accuracy of terminal aerodrome forecast. As I said, the target there is 93%, and we only achieved 92%. So we missed that one by 1%. Then that takes care of the one target that we missed in the third quarter, Chair. And I'd like to move on then, Chair, to slide number 30, which deals with our fourth quarter. I'm sorry, slide 29, which talks to the quarter 1 to quarter 4 performance. I've already been through quarter 1 to 3, so I'll just talk to quarter 4 there. You'll see there that our actual achieved target is 36%, and the not achieved target is 63%. It has been mentioned this was largely due to the cyber attack. And then on slide 30, we just repeat in a bit more detail the targets that we had not achieved in the fourth quarter as a result of the cyber attack. Chair, I'll take yourself and honorable members in a little bit more detail around which targets we had not met in the quarter. So on slide 32,
Mr. Abada,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Abada, I just want to inform you that there is no slide or presentation in front of us. Ne?
Okay.
Your team
Do you
is
want me-
not flighting any presentation, but we are using our own. But I think they should work on it. They should work on flighting this report. Even though we have our own, but there's nothing that is
All right.
flighted in front of us.
Yes, Chair. Honorable Chair, I'll ask Mr. Mohapi to see if he can flight from his side.
Okay.
I'll ask him to do that. Do you want me to continue, Chair, in the meantime? Or shall I wait for the slides to come up?
Can they be quick, Mr. Abada?
Okay. I have asked him to try to share from our side. There we go.
Something is coming. Yeah, it's fine.
All right. So
Mr.
sorry, Chair, may I proceed?
Yes, you can proceed.
Okay, Chair, I'm talking to slide 32, which talks to the quarter 4 performance. So in terms of that's sorry, it seems like the slides are different somehow. Subprogram 1.1, warnings and alerts.
We are at slide 32.
All right, can you move down one more? Yeah, there we go. So it's slide 31. That one talks to the percentage availability of the national forecast. Chair, you'll see there that target was set at 97%. We missed that one by 1%, as I indicated. So the cyber attack had something to do with that in terms of us not being able to access some of the evidence for us to confirm, and we had to rebuild our message handling system, which had been destroyed by the cyber attack. But Chair, I just want to mention there that in terms of that, we managed from an annual performance perspective to actually exceed the target there. And then can we then go down 2 slides to slide 33? Okay, this was the next target that we had not met, Chair. This related to the percentage availability of our marine products or our safety of life at sea products. There our target was 97%. We missed it by 2%. And in terms of, I mentioned already how we're going to correct that we have rather rebuilt our message handling system. But once again, Chair, just in terms of that particular target, we did achieve the overall target. And then I'd like to move down then to slide 36. Thank you. This one talks about the number of new or enhanced climate and non-climate specific solutions that were signed off. Our target for the year was 4 of these solutions. We only managed, unfortunately, Chair, to sign off on 1 of them. The cyber attack severely impacted this program's functionality because we lost codes, we lost configurations, and then there were also related processes from the research server environment where we normally develop our products from that were lost. And a lot of that data was corrupted as well. So in terms of how we were correcting this, we're looking at rebuilding the server environment and then also redeveloping the scripts that were lost, and then looking at our communication channels for our respective data feeds. We've gone quite a ways in terms of that, but unfortunately, at that point in time, we had were only able to achieve 1 of the results that we had intended to achieve. Can you then move down to slide 40, please? Thank you. This one talks to our availability of Tier 1 radars. The target there was 75%. We didn't beat that target. We managed 66%. There we had a few complexities. There was a problem with unstable power supply at 2 of our sites, Ermelo and Irene. We also had vandalism and theft that affected us at 2 of our other sites. Irene was one of them as well, and then Polokwane, where they stole some equipment, and some of our non-peripheral infrastructure also underperformed. In terms of restoring that, we escalated that maintenance and repairs to our service partner and appointed a service provider to repair our standby generator in Ermelo. But overall, Chair, you can see there once again that the target, the overall annual target was in fact achieved and even exceeded. Then can we go to slide 41, please? This relates to the percentage of priority areas air quality stations available on SAQUIS. We didn't meet this target. We only achieved 67% on this one. There were, once again, issues related to the transmission of data as a result of the cyber attack, but also 2 of our stations, Xanadu and Kliprofir. We're still awaiting data there from our data recovery processes. And some of the data was lost because of our faulty instruments and the power interruption challenges that we experienced there. So our overall result there annually was 69%, which is 11% below where it should have been. Then the next slide, slide 42. This one relates to the percentage of climate data availability on the National Climate Database. The target is 85%. We achieved 63% in the quarter. We are in the process of trying to restore our climate database and also look at recovering all relevant data to close the data gaps in terms of our historical data, and specifically that going back to 2021. However, we had once again achieved the overall target for this indicator, and we exceeded it slightly as well. Then, can you go to slide 45, please? Thank you. This slide relates to our unregulated commercial revenue. For the quarter, we were a little bit underperforming in terms of the fact that we generated about 5.4 million rand in revenue and did not meet the quarterly target. However, if you look at the annual target, the annual result we had exceeded by, I think, 200,000 roughly, the annual target. Chair, those are the problem areas in terms of our performance. I want to hand over, please, to the CFO. And if you can move back to slide 22, there's 3 slides there related to Q3 financial performance. And then he'll also deal with the Q4 financial performance. So let me hand over to Mr. Mzizi. Just take us quickly through the financials with your permission. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Abada. CFO?
Good morning, Chair, honorable members, Deputy Minister, CEOs and chairpersons and colleagues from the entities. Good morning. Chair, thanks very much. Thanks for this opportunity. And with your permission, Chair, may I switch off the video, if you don't mind?
Yes, you can switch it off, Mr. Mzizi.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I will start on the current slide, which indicates our performance for Q3. And in terms of the total revenue, the actual is 477 million versus the budget of 520 million. And we will see the details in the following slide. However, in this slide, we show the revenue as well as the expenditure. In terms of the expenditure, we are sitting at a total of 395 million versus the budget of 405 million. And the difference of 10 million is because of the underspending on the administrative expenditure of about 2.5 million, because the actual is 14 million. And the compensation of employees is 227 million versus the budget of 230. And this savings is because of the vacant positions that are being filled. And Chair, in this slide, I'm not going to spend much. I just want to indicate that the deficit for the Q3 was 9.3 million. And this is mainly of the money that has been allocated for capital expenditure. The next slide, Chair, it gives us a breakdown of our revenue. And we can see that in terms of the underspending, it's on the government grant capital expenditure of 64 million. And the budget is 120 million. And if I may just explain on this one, these are the monies allocated for our capital infrastructure. And when we issue the purchase order, the product that we are buying, for example, the radar equipment, we import them, and they've got a lead time of about 4 months. And then hence, before those items are delivered, where we still have commitments, it will indicate that we are below in terms of the actual expenditure. Because the actual expenditure, we start realizing that when the items are delivered and then when we start paying for those items, and then hence this expenditure will increase. But we have issued the purchase orders to order those items. And in terms of the donor funds, we're sitting at 23 million versus the budget of 21 million. We did well in terms of these donor funds. And then the donor funds, these are the monies that we work together with people that are interested in our research activities or in what we're doing. And they donate money so that we can partner with them in terms of our research activities. And on the statutory revenue, we have done very well due to the improvement of the air traffic volume. We sitting at 109 versus the budget of 103 million. And then on the non-statutory, we are very close to the budget because the difference it's about 500,000. And the different amount that appears there below the non-statutory revenue, it indicates the elements that we are selling, be it instruments, information fees, commercial partners, where we partner with our entities that work together with us, service providers, so that we sell maybe to insurance or banks where we sell our products to them. And the total revenue it's 477 million versus the budget of 520 million. With your permission, Chair, may we go to the results for Q4, and we'll be going to slide 50. And this slide is for Q4, and I must also indicate that Q4 it's cumulative, which includes all the quarters to Q4. And in this slide, as we can see, in terms of the government grant, we are sitting at 304 million versus 304 million, which is the same. And on the government grant capital expenditure, the actual is 86 million versus the budget of 161 million. And then, as I've indicated, at the end of Q4, we have issued purchase orders to buy the much needed equipment. However, because of the lead time, they are not yet delivered. And then hence we have this variance. And then the donor funds were sitting at 31 million versus budget of 29 million. And on the non-statutory revenue, we've seen a good increase due to the recovery as well of this aviation industry. The actual, it's 149 million versus the budget of 138 million. And then on the non-statutory revenue, it's 29 million, 0.3 versus the budget of 29.1. And may we go to the next slide, which gives the picture of our revenue. As you can see, Chair, in this slide, the government grant, it's about, in terms of the budget, it's 70%, and the actual, it's 64%. 64%, it just indicates that we are currently reliant on the government grant. However, we are trying our best to also improve our commercial revenue. Our commercial revenue consists of the statutory revenue, which is 23%, as well as the non-statutory revenue of 5%. And we also have contributions and donations of about 5%. And we are working hard so that we can improve our commercial revenue so that we are not totally reliant on the government grant. And the next slide, Chair, it gives the narration in terms of our expenditure. The expenditure, we're sitting at 550 million versus the budget of 583 million. And this is mainly because of the administrative expenditure where it's below budget by 21%. And we give the reasons why we are below budget, as well as on the operating expenditure. We are also below budget of 233 million, because the actual it's 230 million. And then also here we give the reasons for why we are below budget. And some of them is due to the fact that we have got a hybrid model whereby in some days, some of our employees work from home, and on other days they come to the office, and then hence we have realized some savings. And also after the impact of the cyber attack, many of our employees were working from home as we were recovering. And the next slide, it indicates the savings as well in terms of on the repairs and maintenance, as well as on the compensation of employees. The savings on the compensation of employees is due to the positions that are being filled that are currently vacant. And for Q4, we have a deficit of 35 million. And the slide or the graph below, it just indicates what are the driving force for our expenditure. As you can see, about 55% is on compensation of employees, 42% is on operating expenditure, and 4% is on our administrative expenditure. Chair and honorable members, thanks very much.
Thank you, CFO. Honorable members, that's it. The presentation from South African Weather Services. I think I'm going to note hands for those who would like to ask questions and comment. And I see the hand of Honorable Kize, Honorable Makasi. So far, there's 2 hands. Okay. Honorable Kumalo. In that order, honorable members. Honorable Kumalo, can you mute your mic, Mama? Thank you. Honorable Mkiza.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning, everyone that is present here today. I've got just a few questions of concern. What one I've observed in the presentation for the Q3 and Q4 performance overview for SARS, we've seen that they've achieved 91% from Q3, but they only received a target of 36% achieved due to cyber attack in January 2025. My questions will be based concerning the cyber security and cyber attack. My first question is that what immediate security measures have been implemented since January 2029 cyber attack to protect critical systems? And if I would like to also know, has any sensitive weather data been permanently lost or compromised due to the cyber attack? Was the cyber attack due to outdated software or insufficient IT policies? And maybe if they can clarify further there, what was the cause of the cyber attack? Because we hear that there was a cyber attack in January, but the main cause, was it for software outdated or insufficient IT policies? Concerning the air quality stations, how many stations remain vandalized or decommissioned? Also, has SOURCE engaged community safety forums to protect their assets? Are any regions without air quality monitoring entirely? My last question, Chairperson. Is historic climate data recoverable after the cyber attack? How does missing data affect records since 2021? I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable. Yes, Honorable McCarthy, followed by Honorable Kumalo and Honorable McCarthy.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to yourself, honorable members, officials present, and thanking the presentation from SOURCE. And I have a few questions as well, Chair. I'd like you to check on the issue of level 5 on triple BEE, the rating for quarter 2 and quarter 3. There seems not to have been any milestones achieved. I'd like to check whether does this mean there were no interactions with service providers, or was there no tender process in place? The second one, Chair, is the entity paid an amount of 6.43 million to attorneys and investigators for services provided. I'd like to know what were the cases about and what has been the outcome to date of those cases. And then the savings of 591,000 against the budget of 800,000 as mentioned in the document due to vacancies being advertised online. What are these substantive differences between running this process themselves and outsourcing that? And then, Chair, noting that the impact of cyber attack as raised by Honorable Mkhize on the entity resulted in inability to access encrypted server, which then impacted on the performance information negatively. What is the update currently regarding this, if they can take us through? And then what ramifications have been put in place to address the issue of code configurations and related processes from the research server environment being lost? And how are they addressing the issue of unstable power supply at Irene, MLO Radar, the both sides, and the vandalism and theft at Irene and Polokwane Radar sites, as well as non-optimal peripheral infrastructure performance? Lastly, Chair, noting that the restoration of Polokwane Radar was escalated to SOURCE as maintenance and repairs partner. The service provider that was appointed to repair the standby generator in ML, how much was this cost to the entity? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Makas. Honorable Mokoena, can you kindly mute your mic? I think if you are struggling to raise your hand, I note you. Maybe you wanted to indicate that you wanted to speak. Honorable Kumalo, followed by Honorable Managa. Then lastly will be Honorable Mokoena.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Greetings to all members, our officials on the platform. Chairperson, I want also to join Honorable Manaka to welcome the report from SOURCE. But I'm having just some few questions to raise. Can you explain, Chairperson, the process of phototypes of new or enhanced climate and non-climate specific solutions being translated into solutions? What have been the socio-economic consequence of decommissioning the Emalahleni, Zamdela, and Deep Kloof station? What long-term effective measures are you putting in place to deal with theft and vandalism in your stations? I don't know, Chairperson, whether do we go also to Q4 or we're just asking for Q3?
You were asking Mamu Kumalo, quick presentation that was presented by source.
Okay.
You can ask, yeah, in the presentation
Chairperson,
that
I
was.
want also to check, have they built sufficient internal capacity to ensure protection against future cyber attacks? Can you assure the committee that source is now protected? And if possible, divulge your mitigation strategy. Chair, how many people are being trained and equipped with advanced skills to prevent recurrence of the cyber attack incident? Noting the cyber attack on 26 January 2025, what alternate measures to disseminate products were implemented? How long will it take to rebuild the message handling system? And what are the costs involved? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Kumalo. Honorable Managa.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson. Let me take this moment and greet my colleagues and also the
Just hold on,
representatives.
Honorable Kumalo. Your Honorable Managa, just hold on a bit, Mama, sorry. Honorable Kumalo, yes, I wanted to ask her to mute. Okay. You can continue, Honorable Managa. Sorry for that.
Yes, thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson. I was still greeting everyone who is in the meeting. Honorable Chairperson, my colleagues, they spoke in length on the issue of cyber attacks. Let me not repeat what they've said already. Honorable Chair, mine is on the air quality monitoring. You will remember very well, Honorable Chair, that we visited KZN, we also visited Mpumalanga. When we were there, the communities, they raised serious concerns about the poor quality of the air that they are forced to inhale on daily basis. And also in other areas where there are some industry, they are having a problem of inhaling those smokes or whatever is being emitted from those industries. In the light of this, Honorable Chair, to Mr. Ismail and the entire representation from SOurce, what specific and urgent steps are they taking to restore, protect, and expand air quality monitoring capacity in these high-risk areas? And how are they intending, Honorable Chair, to ensure that these vulnerable communities are not left behind due to infrastructure challenges and the vandalism that we've been hearing, and maybe repeated failures to meet the air quality monitoring targets? I think that will be the question that I'll be posing to the CEO of SOurce and the team, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable. I want to check whether you wanted to say something. Also on this report of South African Weather Services, Mama. Mema Kwena.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning to everyone on the platform. Chair, let me take this opportunity and welcome the presentation by SOurce. I do have several questions here, Chair. Slide 6 indicates that you have a target of 97% for the weather, for the availability of national weather forecasts, and you have achieved 100%. However, I would like to know what informs the 97% and why do you leave out the 3%? And then on theft and vandalism of air quality stations, as well as unregulated commercial revenue generation below target, were common challenges in Q1 through to Q2. How was it dealt with in Q3? And then what are the outcomes of the review of the aviation evaluations reports to identify the staff or office where additional development may be required in order to address accuracy of terminal acronym forecast target? And then on Q4, noting that effective transmission of data was affected by the cyber attack, and Shanadu and Klep River data is still pending as data recovery continues. What is being done to address faulty instruments and power interruption are challenges? What measures are you putting in place to do reputational damage with your partners and clients following the cyber attacks? Do you have backup for the climate service primary server? If not, why not? If yes, please elaborate. And then what resulted in the savings of 273K against the budget of 203 million on board remuneration? I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mokoena. Honorable Managa, can you lower your hand? I do not see any other hands, honorable members.
Chair?
Yes.
Sorry, I did raise it again. It maybe you may allow me maybe a minute or two.
Okay, 1 minute, Honorable Managa.
Yes. Thank you so much, Honorable Chair. Again, I've also noticed that under Program 1, Weather and Climate Services, Chair, sub-program 1.1, the warnings, alerts, and advisories sub-program, they reported 100% achievement in one of the quarters. So, Honorable Chair, just for interest's sake, just recently in the Eastern Cape, there was a severe weather event. There were incidents that occurred. Was there an alert that was issued? And then if there was an alert, I just want to find out how effective was the communication and the response, especially in those areas or the people that are that were affected. Because I know one of the goals, maybe if I may say that, is to alert the people or to alert the communities that there will be flood here, there will be flood there. I don't know whether this loss of information also affected this, because what happened in Eastern Cape really, Chairperson, it's something that we won't forget. I want to check whether those people were alerted or there will be an incident that will be happening. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Managa. I have been covered from my side by the questions that were posed by the honorable members. CE and CFO, can you then respond to the questions that were raised by the members? Mr. Abada?
Thank you very much, Chair. I'll respond and I'll ask our executive colleagues, that are in the meeting with me, to just also fill in the gaps where we do have gaps. So, Honorable Nkize, in terms of the Cyber Security Act attack, what were the immediate security measures that we initiated to protect source? So, sir, and I think it will also answer some of the other questions that are related to the cyber attack. So, essentially, once we became aware that there was an attack that had happened, the immediate thing that we did was to actually shut down all our systems. So, we have almost 23 national offices. They're all linked, in terms of computer availability and so forth. And as soon as the breach happened, we then immediately shut down all services, including our email and so forth. So that was one of the immediate measures that we used to protect the permanent loss of data. And in this particular instance, the server environment was encrypted, and approximately 94%, I stand to be corrected about the exact, I think it's between 94 and 96% of our server environment was in fact encrypted. So in terms of loss of data, we do have backup tapes, and we have data on disks as well. That data is currently being used to retrieve the records that we had built up over the years. So in terms of how the attack happened, the cause of attack, from what was initially reported to us, was as a result of a phishing email. Honorable members, we are busy with a process to do a complete audit, and we have the AG that would be looking into this matter, and we'll also bring on board via our internal audit a company that will assist us to get to the bottom of the attack and see exactly where our vulnerabilities were. So that process hasn't been concluded yet. And once we know that, we'll be able to report more in a more detailed manner to Parliament. In terms of, and I'll go through them and just respond. So I'll start with the air quality stations. From my recollections, we have 15 stations, and Ms. Gwazi is in the meeting with us from the department. I'm going to ask her to also assist in terms of some of the figures and facts related to the air quality issues once I'm done. But SAWS does not manage the entire network of air quality stations yet. We have 15 from my recollection, as I said off the top of my head, in the in the priority air quality areas, and we have 3 of those. Out of the stations that are functional, once again, as I said, my recollection is that there's 3 that are out of commission at the moment, and we are in the process of talking to, I think it's DPW, to find alternative locations, safer locations for those 3 particular stations. So in terms of the community protection, as I said, our stations form part of a larger network of stations that are not necessarily all overseen by us. The other stations belong to municipalities and so forth. So that entire network of stations, including the ones that are under SAWS supervision, make up the entire air quality stations that collect data. So in terms of your question, Honorable Mkhize, around are we, or do all the regions have adequate coverage? So that is a problem in terms of us not being everywhere for everybody, kind of thing. So we've recently been in discussion with the department to look at precisely that issue. We are looking at a lower cost air quality monitoring stations, and our current stations, I think the cost of those stations, and Ms. Gwazi, you can just correct me if I'm wrong, is between 1 and 2 million rand per station. And then you still have the maintenance and repairs on an ongoing basis, which then also forms part of that costing. So we're looking at slightly lower cost stations so that we can deploy more stations across the entire country and specifically in areas that are not covered in terms of air quality measurements. So that has a few advantages. Obviously, there are disadvantages as well because they're not as advanced as our current stations, but we then be able to get a bit more and better coverage over the entire country. I'll talk to the data issues just now as well, comprehensively. And then, Honorable Makasi, just on the level 5 on triple BEE, maybe Honorable Member, just to give you a history that we've brought this BEE level down from level 8 over the last 2 or 3 years to a level 5. In terms of our ability to bring it down further, and I'll ask Ms. Decker to just confirm what I'm saying, but essentially we need a lot of money in relation to a single aspect of the triple BEE to bring that figure down even more. Unfortunately, budget, as you all know, Honourable Member, is constrained at the moment. And on all our other areas, and I noticed that you mentioned things like service providers, we've engaged with service provider development. So on most of our other areas where we could earn points, we have put in place initiatives, and I think we've done relatively well in terms of those. So the current outstanding item would be that spend in terms of, I think it's training, but I'll get Ms. Decker to confirm what that is. So, Honorable Makasi, you asked about the 6.43 million that we've spent on legal costs. So it's a variety of matters. Some of them relate to investigation, some of them relate to disciplinary inquiries, some of them relate to litigation. So there's a variety of costs involved there. And there's also the outcomes of those included the dismissal, of certain employees that were found to be wanting in terms of their activities at the South African Weather Service. So in other words, the outcomes were that there was consequence management, and that consequence management led to people being dismissed. There were other matters that also, as I said, related to investigations, and whatever the recommendations of those investigations were, they were in fact implemented and carried out. Then the vacancy question related to outsourcing versus internal, how we deal with those. We generally try and do our sourcing internally. It's only in extreme cases where we're looking for a specific a set of skills, or we were unable through our normal processes to actually garner sufficient interest in that post, that we then go externally. But I'll ask once again Ms. Decker to maybe just talk to those issues. We have a very low attrition rate currently, and are in the process of filling our critical posts. In terms of our encrypted servers, in terms of the IT, we haven't been able to decrypt the servers that were encrypted by this criminal gang, but we have managed through our backups to bring up a large percentage of our functionality. There are, and I see one of the honorable members mentioned 2021 data. So there are still data gaps in terms of us bringing up all our data. However, we are working on that. It is a slow and very, very tedious process because we've got to go through backup tapes and backup disks of all these previous years. And some of these tapes and discs are showing us errors, and we are working with the service provider responsible for our backups to try and recatalog and re-index these tapes and discs. We've managed to bring up, I'd say, at a rough estimate, probably about 70% of our backups and functionality. However, there are areas where we're still waiting on feedback from the service provider to try and get some of those backup servers to give us the data that's stored on them. In terms of the code configurations in research, our scientists are working on them. They're looking at either reconfiguring them, and it's also part of the recovery process that Honorable Mkhize talked to. So when we bring up a new server, Honorable Mkhize, we bring it up with the necessary protections in place. So in other words, the firewalls are put in place. Whatever else we require in terms of security has been put in place. We've put in a whole range of other security measures as well. So we've got, for example, multi-factor authorizations. We've deployed endpoint solutions on our laptops and so forth to further protect us. We've got firewalls on our website and on the servers that we're bringing up. So any of the servers that we bring up newly, before we even allow them into the source environment again, we make sure that all the necessary safeguards are in place in relation to that. We also are backing up and double backing up data that is now retrieved and data that we're collecting going forward. We're looking at alternative measures in terms of how we back up data as well, in terms of hard copies at the regions, and then also potentially looking at cloud backups as well. One of the members wanted a detailed description of our security measures. Unfortunately, we will not be able to give that on this platform, because that would then also be able, be an exposure for us. So we have several security measures that we have put in place since bringing up our new servers. We've also got a SOC provider and a SIEM provider. That's essentially a service provider that takes care of our security issues. I'm just looking at the issue around the standby generator costs. Unfortunately, I don't have that kind of detail on hand with me, but we can provide the honorable member with the costs of fixing that generator. I'm not sure if the CFO would be able to access that now, but if not, we'll provide the honorable member with that. In relation to the security issues, we've put in place several measures, especially at our big sites like the radars. So we've at some sites we've put in security CCTV cameras. We've hired security companies. We've got fencing around the particular equipment, barbed wire, and the fencing to protect and enclose the specific equipment. So there have been several measures that were put in place. The issue, I think, is that some of our sites are very, very remote. So even with that type of security in place, short of having a security guard on site, which would be far too costly, we do have the security companies that patrol there and also try and link our sites to that security company, so there's adequate protection. But I think as I mentioned, in terms of some of our air quality stations, we're looking for alternative sites that are safer. And just to tell honorable members that we've had instances in some of the police station precincts where we've had damage to some of our equipment. So Safety is a real concern in our country. But from our perspective, we are doing whatever we can to ensure the protection of our equipment. Honorable Kumalo, I missed the question on the prototypes around the solutions. I'm going to ask Dr. Mpepia, who is more technical than I am, to maybe just respond to that question. In terms of Honorable Kumalo's question around the air quality stations, I've already addressed that in terms of the long-term solution. Then the issue around future cyber attacks, we are in the process of appointing a security, an IT security, or CISO they call them, security officer. Our previous officer had left the organization, and we had advertised the post unsuccessfully. On the first occasion, we are in the process of recruiting a security specialist in relation to our SOARS situation. But as I say, as an interim measure, we do have a service provider that's providing us with security advice and assisting us to protect our systems in the interim. In terms of people being trained, there has been a lot of awareness raising in the organization around phishing specifically and around other potential forms of attack. And we'll continue that. And I think the general level of awareness was raised when we had the actual cyber attack. So there were implications that were negative, but I think it also made our employees a little bit more aware of the fact that these things can happen and they are in fact serious. The alternate measures to disseminate information, we are immediately after the cyber attack, we started using alternative means to disseminate information to our immediate and most prioritized stakeholders. So, for example, before we used to send out automatically certain information to our key stakeholders, but with the cyber attack, that was not possible. So we use alternative means, and that varied from emails to WhatsApps and the like in terms of how we sent information to our clients. Obviously, we tried using alternative emails also to send data to our very, very important and clients that needed that data urgently. So there were various methods that we had used to ensure that dissemination of information was happening. And we'll also we're hoping that at least in terms of that poor performance in the fourth quarter, that the AG's office will accept some of our alternative portfolio of evidence to show that we did in fact perform, but because of the cyber attack, we were not able to give accurate statistics. So we are also looking at providing them with alternative means of verification of what we actually did during that fourth quarter, because it's not as bad as it looks in the slides and in the performance, because at the time we were unable to give them that information, but subsequently we've been collecting some information, and we are hoping that they will see the evidence that we're providing them as credible evidence. But we have specific performance indicators generally that we use to indicate our performance. So we're trying to get them to look at an alternative to show that we have in fact been doing what we were supposed to be doing as the South African Weather Service. I think Honorable Manaka, I've mentioned Honorable Manaka, my name is Isham, not Ismail, ISHAAM. The air quality visits to KZN and Mpumalanga and the issues around the emissions, I think SAWS is very, very aware of our air quality situation. I've explained a little bit about where we fit in relation to the overall air quality issues. We obviously are in favor of not leaving any of the communities behind, and that's why I mentioned that we are looking at these alternative low cost measuring equipment in terms of air quality. But as I said, I'll ask Ms. Gwazi to just elaborate on the department and what the department is doing in relation to the overall air quality targets nationally. I think she'll expand a little bit on that. Then Honorable Mokoena was talking about our targets and why we're not setting 100% targets. So, honorable members, just to let you know that the international requirements in terms of some of these targets that we've set are in fact lower than the targets that are shown in SAWS documentation. So I think the TAF's ours is 3% or 4% higher than the international requirements. Might be a bit more even, but I think Dr. Mpepia can maybe just confirm. If he can't confirm now, we can then also send that what the international requirements are. But I can say with confidence that the targets that we've set for SAWS are way above the international requirements for performance reporting internationally. So I'm quite comfortable with the fact that we are exceeding those. Obviously, if you put a target of 100%, there are issues in relation to transmission of data, faulty equipment, and so forth. So we would rather err on the side of caution and put a lower target, a slightly lower target than 100%. So you'll see that most of our targets are in the upper 90s, and we strive to maintain those. But you have to make allowance for, issues such as breakdowns, maintenance, transmission of data, and so forth. So that's why we try and avoid the 100% commitment. But you'll see that overall we've been doing quite well in terms of delivering on those targets. So even if we miss them by 1 or 2%, they generally still well above the international standard required. In terms of our reputational damage, we did a lot starting from day one of the cyber attack. So just in terms of priority clients, we send out letters to them. We made sure that we communicated the breach to our internal staff members. We communicated the breach via media platforms. I appeared on several radio shows and also on television to indicate we had the cyber breach. We also immediately engaged our continuity plan, and we were sending information, critical information, to our clients. I think it was the afternoon of the day of when we discovered the attack, or the next day. But that's how quickly we were prioritizing our very, very important stakeholders, like aviation and marine specifically. And as I said, we were using alternative means to disseminate their urgently required information. We also met with airline associations and some of our other critical stakeholders just to indicate that the breach had happened and that we were, excuse me, putting measures in place to deal with that. Then Honorable Makasi also asked about backup. As I mentioned earlier,
Mr. Abada?
Ma'am, yes.
Source has 4 minutes now to conclude so
Okay.
that we can give
Uh,
to Sunparks. We have 4 minutes now to round up as South African Weather Services.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'll be very quick then. The 273,000 savings, if the CFO can just talk to that. Honorable Managa, in terms of the Eastern Cape, we're also very concerned about that. We've been implementing our impact-based forecasting system, but we've also tried to improve our communication with the emergency responders, and we're also looking at alternative measures to ensure that we are alerting communities. We involved in all the interministerial meetings in relation to issuing the warnings. And from the perspective of us issuing the warnings, whether it was KZN or whether it was the Eastern Cape, we had in fact almost a week before these incidents started happening, issued the relevant alerts and notices to all our national, provincial, and local authorities. So yeah, let me stop there, Honorable Gancho. If I can just ask quickly that my colleagues just come in on some of the issues. I'll start with Ms. Decker. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Good morning, Honourable Chair and honourable members. Chair, I would like to respond to Honourable Makazi's question in terms of the BEE level. We currently have a target of a level 5. That is an annual target, so we do not have quarterly targets because the verification process takes place on an annual basis. And the reason why we target level 5, as the CEO explained, is as a result of limited budget. Just to give you an example, Chair, for skills development, for us to achieve the full 9 points on the scorecard for skills development, we need to spend 6% of our payroll on skills development. That for source amounts to approximately 19 million rand, but for the 2024-25 year, we only had 6.2 million available. So currently we are on a BEE level 4 as per the last verification process that happened. The 24-25 verification process is underway and we hope it will be concluded by next week. So to be realistic, we have a target of 5, but we do aim where budget is available to achieve a higher target. Chair, in terms of the vacancies, we managed to fill 58 vacancies in the 24-25 financial year, but unfortunately one also sees terminations in the form of resignations, retirements, disciplinary actions, etc. So we need to fill that as well. And if we talk about outsourcing, Chair, when you outsource to service providers, it costs anything between 20% and 30% of the CTC of that candidate that you are appointing. So as CEO indicated, we first try to do everything internally, and then if necessary, we outsource. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Decker. Are we done?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to see if the CFO wants to come in and Dr. Mpepia quickly.
Mr. Mzizi?
And
Mr.
Dr. Kwazi.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I was trying to check where I can raise the hand, but I didn't see that button. Thanks very much, Chair. In terms of the legal fees, we've got a breakdown. Disciplinary and the grievances, it's about 4.3 million, and we've got various outcomes there. On the forensic investigation, it's 1.5 million, and where we investigated a few of fraud-related incidents like procurement of goods. It's about 500,000, and the leaking of interview questions, it's about 500,000 as well, and the irregular appointment, it's about 400,000. And litigation, it's about 1 million, and we've got a number of litigation cases that we had to undertake. And in terms of the board remuneration savings, this is because of the transition of the old board and to the new board. During the transition, we resulted in less board meetings, and then hence there's this savings. And in terms of the costs to fix the ML generator, the diagnosis cost was about 14,296. And after they've diagnosed the problem, then to repair it, it cost about 11,000. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mzizi. I think we are done with South African Weather Services. Thank you very much, Sos. We are now going to move to South African National Parks. I'm going to hand over to the board chairperson, Mamphe Miago, to do a brief overview. Mamiago, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson of the committee and the honorable members, Minister in absentia, Honorable DM Swart and Singh, the Chairperson of SAWS, CEO of Sand Parks and SAWS, and senior management of the department, and SAWS, and ladies and gentlemen. Through you, Chairperson, let me welcome this opportunity to present on our Q3 and Q4 presentation, highlighting some key achievements, challenges, and maybe strategic advancements, and which the CEO will go into more detail on. At a high level, Honorable Chairperson, let me also apologize. I am like you, Chair, I am recovering from flu. It's that time of the year, so my voice is not as normal, but I'm recovering.
You can switch off your video as well, Mamiago. We've seen your cute face.
Thank you, Chair. We achieved a target of 81% in Q3 and 78% slight reduction of 78% in Q4. But overall, we are looking at a targeted achieving a target of 86%, subject to audit, which the AD is busy with. And some of the areas where we have not met our targets, and these will be dealt with in detail in the CEO's presentation. And so I will not go into that, Honorable Chair. Then with regard to our financial performance, we have a net surplus of 310 million at the end of the year, which is end of Q4, which is an increase of 20.38% when compared to the same time or same figures in the previous year when we were sitting at 258 million. We have seen an increase in our revenue, a budgeted amount of over 3.8 billion, but we actually raised 4.1 billion in our budget, and which represent a 7% above the budget amount. On the expenditure side, Honorable Chairperson and members, we also had, we're below the budgeted amount by 2%. And we've also seen that part of the increase in our revenue is linked to our efforts with regard to resource mobilization, and of course, and some increase in our tourism arrivals, which the CEO and will cover in some of his slides. I'll just give an overview of that. But we're seeing, Honorable Chairperson, some improvements from 2019 figures, which was pre-COVID, and we're seeing a recovery. The committee will recall that we had a tourism recovery plan that we adopted a couple of years ago, and we are starting to see the results of such efforts. And we're also on the resource mobilization side, We're in the process of finalizing our long-term 20-year financial sustainability plan, and as an institution, so that will also help us to project into the future how we get our revenue and what are the various sources in order to make sure that we remain sustainable as an entity. On the conservation side, Honorable Chairperson, as you know, last year we revealed Vision 2040, which was a bold initiative on our part to move from fortress conservation to a new model that advocates for a more inclusive and socially just approach. So we continue to implement that. This is our first year of implementation since September last year. And we seek to improve because we are entrusted with the responsibility of looking after South Africa's natural heritage. And we have also started, as part of Vision 2040, increasing our own efforts with regard to cultural heritage. Specifically, Chairperson, we have seen an increase in this particular 2 quarters with regard to our land inclusion or acquisition, where we had a target of 10,000 hectares and we achieved 28,000 hectares. And we also, as part of our new approach as for Vision 2040, starting to look at a more mega living landscape approach and in line with global trends. And in that regard, we're working very closely with communities and emerging farmers and other neighboring owners to try and look at increasing the conservation landscape. We have on climate change, Honorable Chairperson and members, we had reported that we have done 2 vulnerability assessments. Members had asked us before, what are we finding? And with regard to the West Coast, we're experiencing the assessments that we will experience rising sea surface temperatures. Upswelling is likely to increase algal blooms and ocean acidity, which will affect sensitive species. And we're also seeing that, noting that the stronger wave action might threaten tourism and other infrastructure. With regard to Marakele, which is the other one we finished in the time under review, we're likely to see an increase in bush encroachment that will affect our fire regiment requirements. Heat stress will continue and likely to experience water security challenges and even ongoing droughts. We have, Honorable Chairperson and members, included the outcomes of these assessments into our plans as moving forward. And as we have presented to the committee, we have a specific focus in the new financial year, which is this financial year, or the next 5 years, in terms of our strategy to take it, being intentional in terms of our response to climate change, and also looking at ways for adaptive management practices, and we're also being proactive in terms of mitigating the risks. Chairperson, with regard to tourism, we continue to monitor the trends in the global market. There has been, given some of the geopolitical issues, we've seen we are seeing some different trends in terms of travel. It's something that we are working with other entities like TBCSA and SA Tourism just to monitor what is happening, and especially some key markets that are key source markets from a South African point of view. In so far as that is the case, Honorable Chair and members, we will then see whether there's a need to review our strategy with regard to marketing and targeting of these markets, or we need to do something else. But we're also increasing our efforts with regard to domestic tourism, because we all understand that domestic tourism is key to our own survival. And that is linked then to the work that we're doing around Vision 2040 for people to understand and appreciate what South Africa, what is our heritage, and therefore travel in their own country. We've also in this last two quarters also improved our grading and assessments in 25 camps. And we've also we're watching very closely the customer satisfaction index, and that has also gone up slightly in quarter 3 and 4. But it's an ongoing work, Honorable Chair and honorable members, that we make sure that our customer satisfaction index goes up, because the more satisfied customers that we have and the more repeater visits and new arrivals we could see into our national parks. With regard to
Mamiago,
yes.
Mamiago, you are left with 2 minutes, because
Okay.
you were supposed to do an overview, not to go into the reporting. We will allow the CEO to do that. Can you kindly wrap up, please?
Yes, Chair, I was intending to finish in 2 minutes.
Please.
Thank you. With regard to our social legacy projects, we've implemented 8, and those include work that we've done in a number of communities. Let me leave it at that, Chairperson, and then allow the CEO then to present.
Thank you, Mamiago. I would request that the CEO should focus on the key areas, and I will just give 40 minutes to do the presentation, then allow space for members to ask questions. Over to you, CEO.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and good morning to yourself, Honorable Chair and honorable members. I'd like to also recognize the Minister in absentia and greet the DMs, DM Singh and DM Swat. I would like to acknowledge the Chairperson of SANParks and the Chairperson of SAWS, the CEO of SAWS, senior members of DFFE who are present with us here today, my colleagues from SANParks, and senior members of SAWS who are also here in attendance. Chairperson, I would like, with your permission, to focus on 2 areas. The one is the part where we have exceeded our targets. I'll do so very briefly, and then go into further details with regards to areas of underperformance. And when I do speak to areas of underperformance, Honorable Chair, I will focus on quarter 4. On quarter 4 underperformance, because in most instances where we have underperformed in quarter 3, we have tended in the main to catch up on quarter 4. So that will be my approach. I will then start with slide number 5. Thank you very much. I won't spend too much time on this. The Chair has given you an overview on this performance. We've seen a dip in Q4 in terms of our performance, but overall, the annual performance has nudged us above 80. It is to be audited as a number, but it rests at 86%. I would like to then go to slide number 7. They're just the areas where we have seen an overachievement. I'd like to focus on the issue of the wetlands. This is one of those oddities, Honorable Chair, where we exceeded target prior to the end of the year. So as much as it appears in Q4 as an underachievement, by Q3 we had already exceeded our target. The same goes to the clearing of invasive species. We have exceeded our targets quite significantly there. So that is for us a point that we would like to bring to your attention. I'd like to go to slide number 9. In slide number 9 as well, the chairperson alluded to most of these points here. The tourism grading assessments, we exceeded our grading assessments quite significantly, and I will speak later on about why grading is important, but in effect, it's really about customer satisfaction and just ensuring that the product that we are selling is meeting the expectations of the consumer. And that's why we keep an eye on customer satisfaction index. All of these things then result in higher occupancies. And when we have higher occupancies, we begin to see increased revenues. I'll go to slide 10 and speak to our activities in terms of our CSI, in terms of our socio-economic transformation efforts. We run a donor and a game donation program that you are well aware of, where we have exceeded our targets as well in quarter 3. Cumulatively, we have exceeded as well annually that target. The target was 500. We have exceeded that target by 245 animals. There has been a question in previous engagements where we have also responded in writing about where these farmers are located, or these emerging game farmers are located. They go through a very stringent application process, but in the main, they are in a number of our provinces, about 6 of our provinces, and I will just check that list. I'm just doing this only because the chair had also indicated about the climate vulnerability assessments, that a question had been asked previously, and just to add on. But we can always go back to that. I'd like to then move to page 11. I'm sorry. Please go back to 10. I just wanted to speak about the EPWP jobs. We are doing quite well, even though there is 1 or 2 points of discomfort in terms of our EPWP. 61% of our total EPWP jobs were created for youth, against a target of 60%, just a marginal increase, a marginal exceeding of the target. We exceeded the target for people with disabilities. We scored 4% of people with disabilities being employed in EPWP, exceeding our 2% target. We're also particularly proud, Honorable Chairperson, that we are very intentional and very focused on procurement from SMMEs, particularly those owned by PDIs. It's under our program of preferential procurement. In Q4, 88.5% of our procurement opportunities were awarded through preferential procurement. This is also an exceeding of the target of 80%. I'd like to go then to slide 11. The chairperson touched on our social legacy projects. We exceeded our target slightly. We have 8 as opposed to 6. of these projects. These CSI projects range from water provision, water tanks, roller tanks, things like programs for small-scale fisheries, and the like. So we have done very well. In Q1, we were battling. However, I'm pleased to say, Honorable Chair and members, that we caught up and exceeded. We also have put in quite a significant amount of work in the training of beneficiaries. We exceeded that target that we had set of 40 for Q3. And by Q4, we had trained 263 beneficiaries. The training that they receive encompasses a number of areas: project management, game farm management, which is particularly important for these emerging farmers that we're donating game to. They need to understand how to run these businesses. So issues such as corporate governance and business management also very, very critical. We also continue to expose our young people, learners, to the national parks, and we have exceeded that target as well. We had set ourselves a target of 750, and we have closed the year with 796 learners, school groups rather, having entered our parks. I will now go to the areas of underperformance, starting with slide number 19. I have commented already on slide number 19 and said the actual quarterly target here of wetlands under rehabilitation, we missed the Q4 target. However, as you can notice, in Q3, we had already exceeded the target. So such incidences are pointing to the fact that we need to adjust how we target, or we set our targets, and rather not set them per quarter, but rather cumulatively, because then it doesn't show this oddity. We have exceeded our annual target, but we have underperformed for a quarter. I trust that makes sense. I then would like to take you to page 26. Page 26, we speak to our tourist numbers, actual number of people that have gone through our gates. We have missed the target in both Q3 and Q4 rather, as opposed to having a 5% increase that we had targeted. We ended up only with a 2% increase. And this, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, has to do with the fact that there was a long maintenance closure of one of our key sites, which exceeded the normal maintenance period by 3 weeks. So typically there is a 4-week closure for this particular site. However, in the past year, the maintenance ended up being a 7-week maintenance program that affected us rather adversely, because we estimate that we lost during that time 130,000 tourists. On a slightly smaller scale, we also saw some prolonged heavy rainfalls and storm surges in Tsitsikamma, which resulted in a decrease where people literally cancel their bookings, particularly the camping guests in both Storms River and Nature's Valley. These are camps down in our Garden Route area. So those are the things that we have seen when we drill down and analyze the data to have impacted on our inability to reach our tourist number targets. But I must just indicate that despite us not reaching those targets, we have exceeded our tourism revenue target. I'd like to then go to page 28. 28 is also under the area of tourism. We missed our target for quarter 3 and quarter 8. Quarter 4, sorry, my eyes are playing tricks on me. Quarter 3 and quarter 4, we had a target of 8 tourism products. However, we found ourselves having to cancel a number of tenders at the beginning of quarter 4. And this was due to our quality assurance. You will recall, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, that we have come before you to indicate that we are strengthening our SCM practices, including increasing the number of members who are qualified in SCM. And as a result of this, we have introduced what we call a quality assurance measure in our SCM process as a final step before tenders are sent for adjudication. It is this quality assurance step that revealed that there was an error that had occurred in the advertisement of these tenders. And if we had continued without cancelling these tenders, we would have been found wanting and non-compliant in many respects, which could also even result in irregular expenditure, even though these are revenue-generating projects, but they would have had a cloud of an absence of compliance. I need to explain that why it is that it happened to all of them was they were released as tenders as a bunch of about 10 or 12 projects at the same time. So when an error was made, it affected one and all. And therefore, we had no option, Honorable Chair and members, but to cancel those tenders. And that is why we are reflecting that non-achievement. I'd like to go to page 32. I spoke about this when I was talking about the targets that have been exceeded. It only reflects as red, as I indicated, because by quarter 3, we had exceeded our annual target. I just wanted to comment on that one again, just to put it into context. I would then like to go to 35. 35, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, we have in the past been very good at our activities around our EPWP, but this particular target has eluded us. We have moved our target from 55%, that was the year previous, so 23-24. Our target was at 55%. We then, having seen that we exceed that particular target with ease, decided to increase our target for the year 24-25 and going forward to 60%. However, we've only managed to achieve 58%, especially around the number of jobs created for women. So we did not make that target by 2%. I'd like to go to number 39. Number 39, I'm also just picking up to say, as much as Q3, we had not met the target. By Q4, we had caught up. Those are our CSI projects that both the Chair and I have now made reference to. Page 42. Page 42, I'd like to draw your attention to the issue of resource mobilization. We had a target of 30 million for Q4. We've only managed to raise close to 20 million. There are a number of grants that we were negotiating and negotiated successfully so in Q3 and Q4. However, in terms of signing the relevant MOUs and receiving the sponsorships or donations, we're only likely to see that in the next 2 quarters of this new financial year. I must just also indicate that we also lost a funding when the US Department of State terminated the agreement that it had with us with regards to climate adaptation, a climate adaptation project. But as you know, this is just a reflection of that change in the geopolitics and America's, the American government's approach and what is the right word? Approach and attitude towards donor funding. So yes, indeed, we were a victim of that change in attitude coming out of the US. But as I mentioned, we are trusting that in this financial year, we are going to be able to reflect a different number because some of those that we were negotiating in Q3 and Q4 will be coming to fruition. I would like at this juncture, through you, Chairperson, Honorable Chairperson, to request the CFO to start from page 47 to speak to the preliminary financial report as at the 31st of March. This Ms. Ketiwe Sulubani. Thank you.
Over to you, Ms. Ketiwe Sulubani.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Good morning. Once again, Honorable Chair.
There's an echo, Ma'am Sulubani. Something is repeating you at the back. Can you talk again?
Is it better now?
Yeah, you are fine now.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Once again, good morning, Honorable Chair, members, the Deputy Minister Swart, as well as Deputy Minister Singh, my chairperson, my CE, the delegation from SOARS, as well as the delegation from DFFE, and my colleague. I will be presenting the interim financial performance as we are currently busy with the final performance, and Auditor General is on the ground auditing our final financial information. So in terms of revenue, as at 31st of March 2025, we realized that 3.956 billion, which is 3% above budgeted amount of 3.8 billion. And as you've heard from our chairperson, there has been a slight or a great improvement as she deliberated and shared the final figures that we have, which is the latest figures. The revenue, the improvement at interim was as a result of our conservation fees as well as our concession fees, surpassing budget by 11% and 7% respectively. If you could move to the slide 52, please. Okay, thank you. In terms of expenditure, as at 31st of March, we realized expenditure of 3.6 billion, which was 4% below budgeted, or we realized a saving of 4% when you compare to the budget of 3.8 billion. And the variance was attributed to our employee-related costs, which was below the budget by 2%. And this was due to to our vacancies being filled in the later months of Q4. And we also realized the savings of retail cost of sales, which was 13% below the budget. And this is mainly due to the driver of fuel, where we actually saved in that space. If you could move to slide 53, please. Okay, in terms of net surplus at interim, we had projected a net surplus of, or we realized rather, a surplus of 288 million. And however, this has greatly improved to 343 million before our actuarial gains and losses. But at interim, we had 288, which was a slight decrease when you compared to the previous year of 313 billion. If you could go to the next slide. In terms of our ratio analysis, if you could check if you note in terms of our liquidity ratios, our current ratio was 1.29 when you compared to 1.25 in the previous financial year. And this was mainly due to the reduction in our current liabilities. In terms of our asset ratio or our quick ratio, which was 1.26, which is slightly higher than 1.22 in the previous year, which shows which still indicates a resilience on inventory to cover our short-term liabilities. And then if you could move to slide 55. In terms of our working capital, we have a favorable working capital of 2.6 billion, which is a positive indication that we won't suffer any liquidity issues in the future. In terms of our debt to equity ratio, our debt to equity ratio as at 31st of March was 0.83. When you compare to the previous financial year of 0.93, which is favorable, and it indicated a reduced financial leverage, and that's making us resilient to debt. In terms, if you can move to slide 57, please. Okay. In terms of our audit findings for the 23-24 financial year, we initially started with 5 major findings that the Auditor General raised. And out of all those findings that were indicated or were raised, we have managed to actually implement all audit action plans, with the exception of one, which is the effective and appropriate steps are not taken to collect all revenue. And in that space, in terms of the progress to date, we indicated that we are in the process of implementing or automating our gates to implement a tourism property management system and to assist with the effective revenue collection. This is underway, but however, we've actually gone to the ground and we have implemented additional or we've implemented basic internal controls to ensure that we effectively collect all revenues at the gates and there are no revenue leakages. If we could move then to slide 68, please. In terms of our compliance and governance controls, especially in the SEM space, we have managed to actually implement strategic controls that will assist us in making sure that we tick all the governance and compliance boxes. We've implemented mandatory probity audit in all our strategic projects. We've also implemented the mandatory inclusion of technical experts. The CE also indicated earlier that we also implemented quality assurance to ensure that we pick up all control deficiencies before our strategic tenders are awarded. We've also deployed transactional advisors for all our complex bids. We've also in the process of concluding our SEM co-sourcing, which will also assist and bolster our SEM teams. And we also are busy with training of all our bid committees as well as our staff members in ensuring that we strengthen our governance and ethics, and we cultivate a culture of accountability and procurement excellence. I thank you.
Thank you, CFO. That was the presentation from Sandbox, honorable members. CE, I believe that you are done with the presentation. I'll hand over now to the members to ask questions. Yes. Okay. May I note hands, honorable members, for clarity-seeking questions? Honorable Kumalo, you are the first one, followed by Honorable De Block, Honorable Mokwena, the third one, Honorable Makasi, number 4. Yeah. Number 5, Honorable Manaka, followed by Honorable Temba, number 6. In that order, honorable members. Honorable Kumalo.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me take this responsibility now to welcome the presentation. I want just to have some few questions, Chairperson, based on this presentation as tabled. I want just to check here, Chairperson, whether does the entity have a strategic long-term solution to address the issue of the wetlands? What measures are you putting in place to accommodate weather challenges in a way that doesn't affect business operations? Do you have a more structured system or process of recruitment in communities apart from the reliance to councillors? How do you intend to address missed targets from the root cause, set feasible timeframes, and carry out consequence management on missed targets? Lastly, Chair, in Program 3, the entity is delivering animals to individuals and to farmers. Can we get the details of those individuals and farmers? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Kumalo. Honorable
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm hearing some difficulty on that side. Can everyone hear me okay?
Continue, my brother. Continue. We
Thank
can hear
you.
you.
I will push ahead. I hope the connection's okay. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everyone on the platform. Thank you for the presentations. I would like to, Chair, commend Sandparks on what I think has been some very improved financial management. Their governance is looking stronger, and there's also implementation of the audit action plans, which is where we want all of our entities to be heading towards. And they've also impressed on their performance, outperforming on several important targets. So I'm very impressed by what's been presented to us today, and I'd like to congratulate Sandparks and the board and the management on that. I would like to ask one specific question just on the 8 tenders that were put out for tourism products that were then recalled because of that quality assurance step, which flagged that error. I think this is a good thing. It's good that our governance mechanisms are strengthening and that we are picking up irregularities and dealing with them. And I think it's commendable that those tenders were recalled rather than pushed through for convenience sake, and to save some embarrassment on missing targets and the like. I think we're putting good governance first, which I think should be supported by the committee. I would just like some assurance from the CEO that the issue was dealt with, whether this was a systemic error that needed fixing, or if it was a human error, that person or people involved have been suitably upskilled or trained, or measures put in place to make sure that doesn't happen again. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Honorable Diblock. Honorable Mukwena.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just want to check that, noting that work could not commence in time in Kruger National Park due to the performance challenges with the service provider responsible for vetting EPWP participants. How are you mitigating this, and what implication does this may have on EPWP? The limitation in the budget due to fiscal constraints. What has been the progress on the application to SITA, and how many participants have you submitted for funding EPWP? And what are the unforeseen circumstances that we are referring to in the presentation? Who are the women who are in senior position, and how many are they? I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ma'am Kwena. Honorable Makasi.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation from Sandparks, the CE, and the last lady that presented on the financials. I would like to check, Chair, my questions are few. What was the target set for tourism grading assessments? And where exactly are the 38 camps assessed located? Number 2, why were there only 114 animals delivered against a target of 150 in quarter 3? Are they separate from those reported in quarter 3? What is the duration of the EPWP jobs that were created for youth in quarter 3 and quarter 4? And how many were they, and from which areas do they come from? And I would like, Chair, to note and applaud the issue of the increment of the disability sector, which has increased to 4% from 2%. And then also the achievement of 60% from 55% in terms of EPWP jobs in general, meaning that the entity is doing what we expect them to do. I would also like to welcome the 76 beneficiaries from the targeted groups, which were trained in quarter 3 against a target of 40 beneficiaries. Can they please elaborate on who those groups are and where they are located? This will assist us because of this is a national entity. We would like to check which areas are actually benefiting. I understand that the presentation is done broadly so that it assists them when presenting, but as a portfolio, I think we need to have those details. The next question is, how were they able to raise a total of 2.408 billion from tourism revenue? Were there any new marketing strategies employed, which they found to be working exceptionally well? Can they please share that with us? And then do they find that the increase in number of wetlands to 24, which is shown in slide 19, is it hampering the ability to meet their targets? And lastly, Chair, why were the procurement processes for tourism products for both Q3 and Q4 not concluded? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Makasi. Honorable Manaka.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Let me greet the Chief Executive Officer of SANParks, the Chairperson of the Board, Ms. Pam Yako, the CEO, and also the CFO, and all the representatives that are here from the SANParks. Honorable Chair, in Q3, the overall performance stood at 81%. They were off target by 19%. In Q4, we see a bit, or let me say, we see a regression to 78%, which is a worrying trend, Honorable CEO. But let me look more specifically on outcome goal 2, which aims to promote improved, diverse, and responsible tourism, which was at 50% in Q3, which improved slightly to 60% in Q4, but performance, however, is remaining below the expectations. On a more positive note, Honorable Chair, outcome goal 3, which focuses on sustainable socio-economic development for land claimants, historically disadvantaged communities, and the broader South African public, it has at least improved from 67% to 78%, which is commendable, because the last time we were having concerns. Maybe one can have a question to check which land claimants are still having issues that are not resolved yet. And what are the internal and external challenges that continue to hinder, Honorable CEO, achievement of outcome goal 2, particularly given its critical role in stimulating tourism-based economic recovery and transformation? And then what strategic interventions are being developed or implemented, Honorable Chair, to halt the regression in overall performance and ensure stability and sustained progress, as we've seen it in Q1 of the new financial year? Thank you so much. Let me also commend them for the improvements and doing the good work, but the regression, it's a bit worrisome. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Manaka. Honorable Temba.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to the CEO, the Chairperson, and all management here. Let me firstly welcome the presentation. Thank you very much, SANParks, for this informative presentation. First, let me congratulate you for your studies, what you are doing with our young people when you want them to know more about SANParks, about the plants and the animals. Thank you very much for that. Please increase on that area. We want to see Black people being involved more in this program. I have 2 or 3 questions. More especially, I'm covered by my other colleagues. But on set 1, biodiversity achievement, why were wetland target missed in Q4 despite overachievement annually? My second question is on set 3, EPWP employment. Why did women EPWP employment miss the 60% target? How will SANParks improve women representation in EPWP? The last one on set 4, are communities able to maintain donation wildlife sustainable? My other question, the last one, a social legacy project distribute geographically? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Temba. I do not see any other hands. But from my side, Honorable members, it's not necessarily a question, but a comment that, it is beneficial that national parks are accessible to schools for educational purposes. And I think it will be also helpful for some parks to map and track the schools that have access to the national parks. For instance, I know from my area in Tsitsikama or Kokama, almost all the schools have accessed Tsitsikama National Park, the one that is in Storms River. But then how do we make sure that schools from the neighboring municipalities, for instance, in Kocha, Jeffreys Bay, how do we make sure that those schools also, they benefit from this outreach program that is done by SANParks, for also those schools to also access SANParks? So I think with that, if they can have that map and track of the schools, that can help SANParks plan target outreach program, so that the schools that have not yet benefited, my comment with SANParks. I'm going to give over to you, CE and CFO, to respond to the questions that were raised by the members. Over to
Thank you,
you,
Honorable
Mr.
Chair,
Hindley.
and honorable members for those questions. There were instances where there was audio sort of cutting off. So I will ask for forgiveness up front where I may have misunderstood a question or not gotten it fully. When necessary, I'll request my colleagues to come in and assist when there is more technicality that is not my specialty. I'd like to start with the question regarding the procurement processes for the diverse tourism products and the cancellation of those tenders. Indeed, Honorable De Block, it is a reflection of the strengthening of governance. We have undertaken an investigation to determine what caused it, who was responsible, and if needs be, is there consequence management to be taken. The investigation, which was conducted by an external party, revealed that it really was an admin error, almost a human error, a mistake that someone made in the process. And our analysis of what went wrong then indicated what level of consequence management was required. It was taken, however, it is not at the level of dismissal. I'm also then responding to the question that Honorable Manaka made. I think it was Honorable Manaka when she was commenting about the the drop in performance under outcome goal 2, which speaks to tourism. A significant amount of that decrease is to do with the cancelled triple P tenders, which, as I've explained earlier, we had to cancel based on the fact that we discovered a procedural error whose implications, had we continued to award, would have been more far-reaching than us not meeting a target. And I believe Honorable Makasi had also raised this issue of the procurement process, so I'll get that out of the way. I will speak to Honorable Makasi while we are still on the tourism issue. You also then requested more information about our tourism revenue and how we're able to achieve it. The chair earlier on alluded to the fact that we had a tourism recovery strategy that we have been following for the last 5 years post the pandemic, the COVID pandemic. That recovery, which is a combination, recovery strategy is a combination of a number of interventions, which include marketing, as you rightfully asked. We have enhanced our marketing, particularly online. It also speaks to the infrastructure development. You will have noted that we have been, for particularly those who visit our parks and who follow us online, you will see that across most of our parks, we have invested in infrastructure refurbishments. And as well, the grading issue is also very critical, as I indicated earlier on, in ensuring that the product we sell to the clients meets at the very most, it meets expectations. And it's a combination of all of these elements that we deliberately set out to ensure we implement so that the outcomes can be seen in our revenues. You then asked about targets for grading and where we have graded. We have graded in most of our parks. We have what we refer to as camps. In every park, you will find that there is a camp that, let's make an example of Skukuza. Skukuza, we see it as a camp. A few kilometers down the line will be another camp within the Kruger, which let's say is Bechendal or Pretoria Skop. So when we refer to camps, it is the number of those accommodation facilities in the various parks. We have undertaken grading assessments across the board, Tsitsikamma, Kruger, Ado, and some of even the smaller ones, such as the Karoo. I am quite happy to also share a list of that. We have a full report on this grading, should it be required, Honorable Makasi. You then spoke of, Honorable Makasi, the 114 animals that were delivered in Q4. If I may just reserve that and request the COO to respond to it, only because he can deal with the technicality with regards to how it is we find ourselves in a deficit in a last quarter when we had a surplus in the previous quarter. So I'm just going to ask her to respond to that technicality. And the same applies to the wetlands. You asked about whether our increase in the targets of wetlands for rehabilitation is going to hamper our ability to achieve our targets. On the face of it, all I can say is because we have exceeded our annual target, we believe that we are quite in a comfortable position to meet the targets that we set for ourselves with regards to that increase in wetlands. But similarly, the Chief Operations Officer can also deal with the technicality with regards to the reporting, where I said the last quarter is a deficit, but the previous quarter is a surplus, and how the two then impact on each other. This is also a question that Honorable Temba had referred to about the targets missed around the wetlands. We exceeded, Honorable, our target already on quarter 3, but if we would like as well to hear from it, from a technical perspective in terms of the measurement and the actual performance monitoring, I'm going to give Mrs. Marcotte that platform. With regards to our inability to meet the 60% target for women, Honorable Temba, in EPWP, as I said, we really had been very ambitious, and nothing wrong with that. We will continue to attempt to meet our ambition. But 60% was one of the targets where on the ground we found that it was very difficult to actually get people to fill those gaps. One of the reasons that we have been given is that there was the service providers that do the EPWP work for us were indicating that they've had relatively low turnover, and we're unable to therefore make space for additional people, particularly those targets for women to be met. We obviously are not going to allow them to just not meet our targets. We are emphasizing and we are putting significant pressure on them. Honorable Temba, you had mentioned something about communities and sustainability. I did not get that, Honorable Temba. Perhaps we can come back to it. You then asked about our social legacy projects, whether they're distributed geographically. Yes, they are. Every communities around our parks are able to apply for assistance in terms of social legacy, a social legacy project, or the parks themselves. The park managers are usually the ones who spearhead the intervention, who will then says, I believe that we need a particular project in this particular community for these reasons. We then assess and analyze, because we also have a finite amount of funding for our social legacy projects, to then determine which ones we are giving priority in terms of implementation for that particular time frame. I'm now backtracking. I also note that Honorable Mugwena asked about EPWP. She also then asked about our applications to the CETAs, and the impact, I believe, on EPWP. Honorable Mugwena, I must just indicate that in the past year, we have been very active as SANParks in ensuring that we bolster our resource mobilization by engaging CETAs. We have also, as an organization, invested energy, a very deliberate energy and focus on skills development. And we are beginning to see a movement in how much we are investing from our own coffers, if I may say. But I'm pleased to also mention that as a result of our our focus on ensuring that our skills development programs, both internally within SANParks and externally, are given that extra impetus. We engaged our SETA, which is CAT SETA, as well as several other SETAs, as ranging from security SETAs, which then would speak to our law enforcement, and others relating to areas perhaps that may not seem directly related to us. The good news I had wanted to then share with you is that for the first time, we have an allocation from CAT SETA that is the largest that we as SANParks have ever recorded. It is 62 million for the next 3 years. So we are continuing in broadening our scope with regards to how we leverage of our relationships with the SETAs, and ensuring that we then ensure a pipeline of skills development, as I said, both internally and externally. You then asked about women in senior positions in terms of who they are. With your permission, Honorable Chair, can we then respond to that one in writing? I do not have the information offhand. Honorable Khumalo, you indicated that you would like to get the details of the emerging game farmers. Those are available. I just also need to indicate that we apply a lot of due diligence when we do determine who is a worthy beneficiary for game donation. It is a relatively long progress, close to a year of us applying due diligence, and also as we share that list of who the game farmers are that have received the game donated, we will quite happily share as well our due diligence process, and also indicate over the last 5 years to 6 years, which is how long, give or take, this program has been running, who the beneficiaries are. Again, with your permission, Honorable Chair, may I then provide a written response? Honorable Khumalo, you indicated that you asked whether there's consequence management on missed targets. The only place I mentioned consequence management was as a result of, or that is related to the cancellation of the tenders for tourism products. There has been consequence management that was applied, but as I have indicated, after a thorough investigation, it became evident that what went wrong was more human error as opposed to something a little bit more dubious. But nevertheless, consequence management was taken. Other missed targets, Honorable Khumalo, are not of the form and shape that would necessarily allow for consequence management. Honorable Khumalo, you'd asked about the strategic long-term solutions around wetlands. If I misunderstood the question, I am sorry, but I do believe that once I allow the COO to deal with this issue of how we seem to have missed the targets around the wetlands, the technicality around it, perhaps it will also answer your question. You then had asked about the recruitment of EPWP, and I think you were asking about what platforms and processes. Honorable Khumalo, as far as I know, we do not, I think you had mentioned councillors, I don't recall now, but we rely on a number of platforms. Sometimes we advertise, most of the time we advertise. We also deal with CPAs, and some municipalities themselves have got databases that we draw from. So it's not a reliance on any one individual or group of individuals. Honorable Manaka, I'm coming to your question. You asked about the number of land claims that are outstanding. Again, Honorable Chair, with your permission, may we put that in writing for the sake of accuracy and just making sure that these very sensitive and often complex issues are dealt with the precision that they require in terms of our response. And Honorable Gancho, we thank you as well for acknowledging that the impact our program, where we provide free access to schools, has had on communities that you yourself are a part of. These are the stories that do keep us motivated. And your question now is, how do we deal with schools from neighboring communities? For me, Honorable Gancho, I'm going to engage the team to then say, how do we increase the radius? If our radius was 100 kilometers and these kids have all now been exposed, we need to increase our radius to 200 kilometers. So that is a very clear action. And we thank you for that input, Honorable. Through you, Honorable Chair, may I then request the COO just to deal with, as I said, the technicalities that in terms of the performance reporting, where, as I said, we seem to have a deficit within Q4, but we had a surplus in Q3. Has is just to explain that technicality, for lack of a better phrase, and that is through you and your commission, Honorable Chair.
Okay. Permission granted.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and good afternoon, Honorable Chair, honorable members, the Honorable Deputy Ministers, and the Minister in absentia, and the senior officials and the chairs of the boards that is present here, and all other protocol observed. Yes, Chair, I just wanted to start with the wetlands. There was questions from different honorable members on the wetlands. The first thing is, there is indeed a strategic plan. We form part of the Working on Wetlands program, which have mapped out degraded wetlands across the country and have a systematic system that goes through it. We work also, have identified all of the wetlands in our parks and then prioritize the order in which they need to be maintained or rehabilitated in accordance to the standard of the Working for Wetlands program. So we target based on presumptions that we make around what is prioritized and what is required. And we then actually also have a lot of variables that play into it. So, for example, extreme weather events, excess heat or even high rainfall could impact on it. And this is exactly what happened in this year. The error that we have picked up in our planning is that for things like the game donations and the wetlands, is that we should always do cumulative planning and not do our planning per quarters, because you cannot predict the weather. Typically in the case of the wetlands, our overall target was exceeded already in Q3 because we had a drier season in which more wetlands could be rehabilitated. And then, as you know, in January, we had lots of rain, and areas that were earmarked for rehabilitation could not be rehabilitation because it was too wet. So it is truly, as the CE says, a technicality. It is in terms of how the planning was made, and in terms of the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation guideline, you have to report on your quarterly target regardless if the annual target has been exceeded already. Then in terms of the game donation, I just need to apologize. There is an error on the slide, which I think contributed to the confusion. The annual target was actually 500 animals, not 750 animals delivered. So we have in the midterm review, because of disease outbreaks as well as predictions in terms of droughts not going to be broken, we have reduced the target to 500 for per annum. And that 500 was then exceeded in Q3 because we could optimize due to the presence of the helicopter, for example, mass capturing that then resulted in us not needing to do as much in Q4, and therefore the Q4 target was not achieved, but the overall reduced annual target was exceeded. Thank you, Chair. Honorable Chair.
We still hear you, Honorable CEO.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Honorable Manag. We are, I believe, done with all of the questions that had been posed.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, CE. Sorry, apologies, members. I just had a technical glitch. I just got disconnected a bit for 1 minute, and then yeah, I'm back. Honorable members, I believe that Sandbox is done. I got cut off when Liz Makot was talking. I think she was finishing up. Thank you very much, Sandbox. I'll just remind you with the committee resolutions for Sandparks to report on the grading of facilities of Sandparks. The second one is the responses on women in management. Those are the ones that you have indicated that you will respond in writing. And the details on beneficiaries of game donations during the previous parliamentary term and status after donations were made. Then the other one is details on the land claimants that are still to be resolved. The due date for the return responses, Ms. Hapilwe, it's 22nd of July. And also, as the committee would like to get an update on Sandparks engagement to expand the reach to schools in neighboring communities in the next reporting period. Those are our resolutions, Sandparks. Honorable members, I think you have captured Ms. Silo, our resolutions.
Yes, Honorable Chair.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chi, can you flight our agenda? I want to see. I think we are done.
We are done, Chair, but let me light it. Agenda now. Oh, okay.
Honorable Mukwena, can you mute? Honorable Mukwena, can you mute? The meeting is still in progress. Can you mute Honorable Mukwena? We have not closed the meeting yet. Honorable Mukwena, thank you. Okay, honorable members, we are done with our today's agenda, and let me take this opportunity and thank Honorable Swartz and Honorable Singh. I did not give them, I'm not sure whether they wanted to say something before we close. Apologies for that. Honorable Singh and Honorable Swartz, would you like to say something before we close our meeting? Honorable Singh? Okay. Honorable Swartz?
No, Baba, so kwabona.
Chairperson.
Oh, Honorable Singh, would you
Yes,
like to say
sorry, I was just
a
trying.
few words before we close?
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed from our side. And thank you to the staff, to all the officials involved and to the committee members. And thank you for those questions. And I'm sure that we will respond to your recommendations sooner rather than later. But thank you very much indeed to everybody.
Thank you, Honorable Singh. Honorable Swartz? Berenice?
Hello, good afternoon.
Would you like to say a few words before I close the meeting?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members. Honorable Chairperson, I would like to acknowledge all the comments and questions given by members of the Portfolio Committee and yourself, Chairperson, and that indeed, I think, Chairperson, after these presentations have been given, and the honorable members have given us their questions and comments that, as always, I always say that we thank even the progressive criticism that helps us to strengthen ourselves in relation to oversight from the Portfolio Committee. And I think that indeed the entities must work around the clock and work very hard in terms of meeting our obligations and the targets. And I think that I do also take cue from what other honorable members in the Portfolio Committee have said, because I think that we must always bear in mind that when we do these budget allocations within our entities, and also that when we are doing the programs, it is for the benefit of communities in South Africa. I am commenting on this here because I think that the chairpersons are here so that they hear what the members of the Portfolio Committee are saying. But I'm saying that, Chair, us as the executive will equally do our work so that the entities respond and with efficiency and in the proper time frames for us to meet this deadline that we do have to meet with communities and South Africans as a whole, because that is the reason why we are here, is to serve South Africans. I thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, DM. Just a reminder also, honorable members, or at source, I believe they are still in the meeting. Ms. Kwaze from DFFE should also respond to the questions that were posed. And also we will give her the time frame of the 22nd of July. If she needs to be reminded, the team will remind her about the questions that were posed. With that being said, honorable members and colleagues, let me take this opportunity and thank both DMs and also thank the chairpersons of the boards that are with us, also the CEs and CEOs and CFOs, delegation from the department and also from both entities. Thank you very much to the stakeholders that have joined and the officials of our committee, Chileka, Antla, Darren, our A team. Thank you very much also to the members for your valuable inputs, and thank you. We shall meet again. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you,
Bye.
Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Recording stopped.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Members, bye.
Honorable Chair.